Hi guys, and welcome back to another video here with me at the Aspiring Home Cook. Today we're making a batch of mini Pavlovas. Every time I make these, I'm amazed at how simple they are to put together. They look like a very fancy dessert and they taste really good, but they're so simple to make. Now everything's made from scratch. We've made the lemon curd at home. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll leave a link so that you can go check that out. We've made the little Pavlova nests at home as well, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. But before we go on to the recipe, if you're new here and haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Once you do, don't forget to click that little bell icon so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. Alright then, on to the recipe. Now the key to getting a good meringue mix or getting good stiff white peaks is to make sure that your mixer, whether you're using a stand mixer or a hand blender, your mixer, your blades, your bowl, whatever you're using is completely fat-free. There's got to be no traces of any butter or previous bakes. And most of the times washing it with warm soapy water and drying it thoroughly does the trick. But if you're not sure and you want to be sure, what I normally do is I just take a little bit of vinegar on a kitchen towel and wipe the insides of the bowl and you'll be good to go. Okay, now that that's done, we're going to start off with our egg whites. I've got 5 large egg whites here that I'm going to pour in. Now, if you're wondering, these are the egg whites, what on earth am I going to do with the yolks? In the past, I've shared a beautiful lemon curd recipe as well as a homemade custard recipe that uses a lot of egg yolks. I'll leave links to those in the description box below as well as right here so that you can go check them out later. And we're going to now whisk this slow at first and then high till the egg whites turn nice and frothy. The egg whites are nice and frothy. Now we're ready to add our sugar. I'm using 1 1/4 cup of fine grain sugar. If you don't have access to fine grain sugar, simply put your regular sugar in a food processor or a blender and blitz it for a few seconds until you're left with powdered sugar. Alright, now when you're adding your sugar, you've got to make sure that 1, your egg whites have reached this frothy stage, and 2, you're not going to add all of it at one time. You're just going to add a little bit at a time. I'm going in by the spoonful. Once we've finished adding our sugar, we're just going to check and see how our egg whites are doing. Like you can see, it's holding nice stiff peaks. Now, if you'd like, you can check, just rub that egg white mix between your fingers to check and see if all that sugar has dissolved. For me, it's almost there. There's just a fine grit that I can find of that sugar. So I'm just going to get it going just for a tiny bit longer. Now that that's done, we're going to make our final additions. I'm going in with 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon of cornstarch or corn flour, and a little bit of vanilla. Now all I have is vanilla bean paste, so that's what I'm adding, and it's going to taste fabulous, but vanilla extract also works really well. And you're just going to beat this till everything's incorporated. 1 little scrape down to make sure that everything is well incorporated and there's no grains of sugar or anything else on the sides of the bowls. And 1 last whisk. And like you can see here, it's holding beautiful stiff peaks. It's nice and glossy. I know my meringue is ready. I've got a baking tray over here lined with some baking paper. All I'm going to do is, using my whisk, I'm just going to dab a few dots of our meringue mix on the bottom. This is going to help that parchment paper stay in place and not move while we're piping it out. Now if you don't want to pipe this out, you can just use a spoon and spread it out. A pavlova can be made in two ways. You can either make one large disc of it, or like in our case today, we're going to make smaller individual helpings. Here I've made myself a large piping bag out of some baking paper, and I've just put a large plain tip into the bag. In the past I have shown you how to make one of these disposable piping bags. I'll leave a link to that video right here so that you can check that out too. Stand it up in a tall jar and simply dollop your mix in. Now, like I mentioned, today I'm using just a plain tip. If you'd like, you could use a large star nozzle too. We're going to close this off as neatly as possible. And press all of that meringue mix towards that piping tip of ours. Then I'm simply going to hold it down upright and give it a good squeeze. We'll make a few with the star nozzle as well, just to show you what they look like. So I've just got a star tip attached over here. Now with this one, we're going to do a little swirl. Lift to the top and keep going and swirl. Once that's done, if you think you want that cavity in there to be a little bigger, just go in with a little spoon and create a slightly larger container. This will hold all your filling, whether it's a cream, your berries, all that good stuff. Our mini pavs are now ready. I'm going to put this in a preheated oven and bake this off at 110 degrees Celsius for about an hour to an hour 15 minutes, or until these easily lift off the parchment paper. Now, I know you're going to be tempted to bake this off at a slightly higher temperature, but remember, if you do that, you're going to get a lot of color developing on your meringues, and you don't want that. You want to leave these as pale as you possibly can. Baking it at a low temperature essentially is almost like drying it out more than scorching it with all that heat. Alright, so I'm going to pop this in and let these bake away. An hour has passed. Very carefully check to see if those meringues are coming off the paper. Yep, they are. I'm just going to turn the oven off and leave them in there for another hour or so before I can take them out. My mini pavs have just come out of the oven. I'm going to let them cool to room temperature before I can fill them up. My pavs have cooled down. Can you hear this? That's how nice and crisp they are on the outside. And what's really special about this is even when they're crispy on the outside, the inside stays slightly gooey, slightly like marshmallow. Now today I'm going to dress these up with some of that lemon curd that I had made a while ago. I think that the lemon curd goes so well with the pav because the pav is nice and sweet, but that curd is so refreshingly tart. The combination is just wonderful. Now, you can leave them like this if you'd like. They'd be perfectly fine, but I'm going to go top them off with a couple of blueberries just to freshen them up a little and to help them look a little prettier. And that's just optional. If you've got some nice fresh mint, a little leaf here and there adds a nice touch. Just brightens it up really nicely. And that's it. These are our mini pavlovas, topped off with some beautiful lemon curd and blueberries and a little flourish of a mint leaf. These will do so well at any party gathering with the holiday season fast approaching. How about I dig into one of these for you? Ideally, you can just pick one of these up and bite right into it. You can see that it's nice and crunchy on the outside. That center is still slightly gooey. I'm gonna go right in. Now that, my dears, is a match made in heaven. Try this recipe out soon. You're going to be blown away by how amazing this is. I'm gonna sit back and enjoy the rest of my little mini pav. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with family and friends that you think might enjoy it too. And thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you really soon with another delicious recipe. So till then, take care. Bye.